Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for yet another day of fantastical frolics and fun as we play the book Phantoms of Fear in the Fighting Fantasy series, book number 28, and which will be a nice little fantasy title after the science fiction romp of Soreide, which I finished last time. And this is actually one of the two books, or three, I should say, or well, two really, that I bought originally when they were new, as they were published. It was this, Phantoms of Fear, and Midnight Rogue, were the only ones I bought new in the bookshop. I never got into Phantoms of Fear. I do remember trying to play it, but looking at it now, I'm thinking that it is quite wordy. There are quite long paragraphs, and I know that the writing style of the books written by Robin Waterfield is something that would probably have seemed a little bit complex for me at the time when I'd only had English for 3 years in school, and yeah, maybe there was something about that that put me off a little bit at the time. I'm quite sure that this time that will definitely not be a hurdle, and that I will enjoy this immensely and get a completely different impression of it, I hope. So, I guess there's not much else I need to say before I get started, because I know that it has something to do with elves, and I remember there was something about dreams as well. That's it really. Yeah, I'll just have to get started and see what it's like, and I'll figure out how it works and what it's like and what it's really about at some point. So yeah, let's just get started, shall we? Right, here we are on my desk. I've got my supplies ready, as I like calling them. Got my book, most important of all, or second most important, of course, after a nice cup of Earl Grey tea, hot and with milk. Make it so. Got my dice, got my pens and pencil, all in one, again, just like last time. And I've got my character sheet, blank sheet of paper, of course, as usual, and my map, another blank sheet of paper that I'm hoping to fill in with some interesting paths through this riveting book. And cup of tea, of course, the main ingredient for saving the world. Right, so I'm going to keep that in shot here. Right, now let's see if I can figure out what's going on here. Let's just see if there are any different rules here I need to keep track of. Let's see, it says you are a wood elf in northeast Cool. Your home is deep within Affan Forest, a remnant of the one forest of old. Your father was a warrior and your mother a shaman, and you have inherited both talents. You are neither as mighty a warrior as your father, nor as adept at magic as your mother, but you are good to have around in a fight. You can weave a few useful spells, and it might be magic in this one. And you can also enter into the dream world, which is a shaman's special realm. Both your parents are dead, and you are now Eldenurin, defender shaman of the tribe. You are about to embark on a hazardous adventure. Before doing so, you must determine your strengths and weaknesses, etc. So then got skill, stamina, luck, and power. So there's a fourth attribute in this one that you don't usually see. Let's have a little look here. So we got skill, stamina, luck, and power, which has something to do with magic, I can only presume. Skill, the usual, 1 die plus 6, 12. Stamina, 2 dice, 5 plus 12 is 17. Luck, 9. And power, let's see what power is like here. Roll both dice and add 6. This is the amount of power points. Okay. So 7 plus 12. So that is 19 power points. And let's see. Skill standard lock and power scores will change constantly during your adventure. Must keep accurate record of them. Never about your initial scores. Never exceed your initial scores. Note, however, that your power score may exceed its initial value, it says here. Okay, so power is also not limited by initial value, but the other ones are. Okay. Your power score determines how good you are at casting spells, how well you can cope with the dream world, etc., which is special domain of wood elf shamans like yourself. Okay, battles, usual thing, I presume. That is standard. Fighting more than an opponent. Follow instructions on the page, it says. Lock. Standard, lock in battles, standard power. Okay, so this is one that I need to have a little look at. When you are dreaming and when you are casting spells, power is the relevant faculty. So dreams. The deities of your people communicate through dreams to tell you what to do, though sometimes the instructions are open to more than one interpretation. That's quite a traditional thing, isn't it? They refresh you and restore your powers. The same power allows you both to cast spells and to be an effective dreamer. As you know, most beings dream, but they do not possess the art of dream control. I used to do dream control. Well, that sort of lucid dreaming, which means that you are first of all, you have to be aware that you're dreaming when you are dreaming, and when you are aware that you're dreaming and aware that you are aware that you're dreaming, if you follow me, you can also choose what will happen because you are technically in control of your own dreams. You can say that, oh yeah, I want to have a big sofa to sit down on right now, and suddenly one will appear. That sort of principle. Which is something that takes a lot of practice. And I used to practice this quite a bit when I was younger. So maybe when I was sort of between ages of, I would say 12 and 20, I don't know, 22, 23, something like that. I used to do lucid dreaming on purpose quite a bit. But after that, it sort of waned off. And these days, I do not do it. One of the nice things that I still have from those days, though, is that the thing is, if you know that you're dreaming, and if you always know that you're dreaming, you can't have nightmares, technically, because if something happens that scares you in a dream, and you know it's a dream, then you can just make it go away. If it's a monster, you can defeat it instantly. You don't have to roll the dice. That sort of thing, or you can fly away, which was one of my favorite things to do in my early days of dreaming. I used to fly a lot, quite enjoyed that. Still enjoy it sometimes when I'm dreaming, actually, yeah, flying. Don't do it as much as I used to, but I think when I was younger, flying in dreams was something that I think there were more things I was scared of when I was younger, which is common, I suppose. I mean, if you're a child, I mean, some things when you're a child, some things are very certain and safe, and other things might be quite scary, and those things can change through your life. But I used to, if something was scary, I would just fly away. So, yes, and even though I didn't sort of actively practice lucid dreaming so much until I was maybe 12. I think I was actually, I was 5 years old the first time that I got that dream awareness that I knew that I was dreaming. I remember this quite vividly because I was dreaming that this was winter, and I was dreaming that I was outside the house where I used to live. We used to live in a terraced house. And there's a little field in front of the house, and this is where, of course, all the children used to play in the snow and make snowmen and snowballs and stuff. And I dreamt that I was outside the house in winter. It was sort of late afternoon, something like that. And I was sitting inside a sort of hollowed out big snowball. So when you're making a snowman, you're rolling up a big, massive snowball, as big as you can make it usually for the first one. And it was sort of, sometimes you could sort of hollow it out and do different stuff with it as well. And I was sitting inside it, and another child came up to me and said, "What are you doing sitting inside that snowball?" And I said, and I remember it word for word, I said, I'm actually not sitting inside the snowball. I'm inside that house over there, and I'm just dreaming this. And since then, every single time I'm sleeping and having a dream, I know that I'm dreaming. So, which also means that I've technically never had any nightmares that I can actually remember. Proper ones where you forget that you are dreaming. With one exception, because I'm not sure if you're aware of a thing called sleep paralysis. So what happens is, in order for your body, I'm going to talk about so many other things than fighting fantasy now. Sorry about that. So sleep paralysis. So when you are sleeping, it's very important that you do not fall out of the tree you're sleeping in. Yes, of course, our instincts and behaviors are still based on our tree-dwelling past to a large extent. And just like that jerky motion you get sometimes when you're about to fall asleep is because you're trying to make sure you're not falling off your branch and the nest that you made in the branches of a tree. And another adaptation to surviving sleeping in trees is that you do not move in your sleep. You do not sleepwalk, you don't shift around too much, because if you do, you can fall down and you can die or get eaten by predators. Yeah, that sort of thing. So the idea is that when you are sleeping, it is very important for the body to be motionless. And the body does this, it actually paralyzes you in a way. So it disconnects all the muscles. So even when you're dreaming that you are moving, most of the time, and most people would not be moving at all. So what can happen is that you, excuse me, you wake up, but you don't wake up completely. So you find yourself in your room, in your bed, and you feel that you cannot move at all. And of course, even if you are usually aware that you're dreaming, this is also one of those cases where, at least for a little while, you may not know that you are still dreaming, because everything is like you're awake, but the sleep paralysis remains. And in that state, you're also very susceptible to imagining things that can be dangerous. So it's quite common for the sleep paralysis to be accompanied by the visual, or certainly this sort of some kind of sensory image of someone else being in the room with you who isn't supposed to be there, something that is scary or frightening. And this could also depend slightly a bit on what kind of stuff you believe in as well. And this is also one of those things. You may have many of the cases where people have been describing how they've been abducted by aliens or visited by aliens is classic textbook sleep paralysis dream, where you're in your room and everything seems entirely real. And it's also something that if you still don't realize that that was sleep paralysis, because you go back to sleep again without waking up completely, you will be able to swear to it in a lie detector test, and people will think that you are telling the truth. And it's also one of those things that people can get religious visions depending on what they believe in. If they are Catholics, they might see the Virgin Mary. If they are Reformists, they might see Jesus, that sort of thing. And the first time I had sleep paralysis, I was not aware of it. It happened sort of, yeah, it took a little while for me to realize, maybe a few minutes. And then once I realized that this is just me being asleep and sort of dreaming of waking up in a way, I was able to wake myself up completely. And the next time it happened, I knew about it, and so it wasn't frightening at all. And of course, the third time it happened, I just sort of woke myself up right away because, yes, the sleep paralysis again. And but of course that was a little bit scary because I was in my room and I had my face to the wall, so I couldn't see what was behind me, and I had the feeling of a presence of someone in the room, which is quite freaky if you think you're awake and you feel you can't move. So yeah, not a nightmare per se, but the closest I've ever had to a real dream nightmare, actually. So yeah, sleep paralysis, very fascinating thing. In fact, so fascinating I've been talking about it for the better part of 10 minutes. Sorry about that. I'm going to go back to the book, which is also going to have something about dreams, probably not about sleep paralysis. Okay. I still have to work my way through this. Okay, so the deities of your people communicate through dreams, etc. Yes, as you know, most beings dream, but they do not possess the art of dream control. It is not up to them whether or not they dream, or what they dream, or whether their dreams are the mere ramblings of an unwinding mind, or what elves call dreams of potency. Your race has long known the art of active dreaming. Your training allows you sometimes not to be taken over by dreams, and to exert your will to manipulate and be effective in that world, just as anyone is in this world. Thus, by dreaming, you encounter situations which parallel, often in a bizarre fashion, the familiar everyday world. You will often find yourself asleep and dreaming in the course of your adventure. The types of situation you will get into in dreams will parallel those of reality. There will be choices to make, but otherwise dream routes and dream encounters will be entirely governed by power, and occasionally by luck. There will even be dream combat against illusory opponents. The book will tell you how to handle such encounters. If you lose such a battle, you will usually not really be killed or overcome, but you may suffer loss of power. If you win, your power may be increased. Power points will also be gained and lost by successfully or unsuccessfully coping with the dream world. It's quite a fascinating concept, as you can tell. I'm quite fascinated by this dream stuff. Spells can be cast only in the real world, not in a dream. In fact, you should be warned never to confuse the dream world with the real world. You are not a master magician. You know only half a dozen spells, which are mostly of the sort which are useful to a peaceful wood elf going about his or her daily business. Nevertheless, you may well find them useful in your adventure. Casting spells depletes your energy, however, and every time you cast a spell, you must reduce your power score by 1 point. All the spells at your command are only temporary and last no more than a quarter of an hour. You can use the spells in battle only if it is feasible to do so. The book will tell you when you can. The spells available to you are as follows. Protect. Cast a pall of invisibility over the area surrounding you. Elves use this to protect their villages, for instance. Beware of including an opponent within the spell, because he would still be able to see you within it, though you would both be invisible from outside. Illusion. Allows you to make anything, yourself included, appear to be anything else, within reason. For instance, you cannot make a molehill appear to be a mountain. Nice example. Weaken reduces an opponent's stamina by 4 points. Levitation allows you to float freely in the air up to a ceiling of about 4 meters. Since you also float gently to the ground, and this looked a bit strange for the heading repeated there. Since you also float gently to the ground under the influence of this spell, it could also be used for descending a cliff, for instance. Finding allows you to detect the presence of something. It may be treasure, a secret passage, or even a lurking enemy. The spell has only a short range. Fire allows you to produce flames from your fingertips, which you can project either to a small area, such as an opponent's chest, or to create a barrier of fire, or even just to keep yourself warm. So, let's see. Potion of skill, stores your skill, stamina, luck, blah blah blah. Power, makes seed, equipment, and potions. Okay, so we'll start your adventure with a bare minimum of equipment, but you may find other items during your travels, etc. You're armed with your sword, Telessa. Your sword has a name. That is quite a nice touch, I think. Telessa. And dressed in leather armor. You have a backpack to hold your provisions, a water flask. In addition, you may take 1 bottle of a magical potion which will aid you on your quest. You may take 1 of the following: potion of skill, strength, or fortune. Now, Of course, as you know, I will at some point play a little bit sort of creatively with the rules here when it comes to my abilities and the randomness of dice. So in that regard, I suppose that my potion may not be the most essential thing. I think that potion of fortune is probably what I will, the one that seems most decent to use, especially if I ignore combat results and things that affect stamina to some extent, but to a lesser extent I will ignore results that have to do with luck. So, of course, the Potion of Fortune gives you your initial luck score back plus 1 point. So when I use my Potion of Fortune, my luck will get up to 10 as opposed to 9. Right. Does it say anything about... Hang on a little minute. Excuse me. Right, I'm back again. Sorry about that phone call. Yeah, I was just about to check if we had any provisions. Let's see. Stamina can be restored. You will not start your adventure with any provisions, it says. So provisions are mentioned, but we don't start with the 10 that you often get in the early books. Right. Really nice artwork in this one, by the way. All this sort of twist. Oh, hang on. There's a sort of picture of the sword there. I presume that is our sword. What was the name of it again? Telessa. Telessa. That's the sword. Right. Let's finally get started. Sorry about my long rambling about dreams. I hope you found that interesting. Right. Background. You wake up suddenly, shivering despite the warm midsummer night air. You are grateful to see the familiar walls and trappings of your hut. You know that you are secure, surrounded by the rest of your tribe and deep in Affan Forest. The dream from which you awoke momentarily escapes you. That's a bit unusual. What was it? Then memory floods in on you. It was a dream of ordinary, everyday life in your village. Elves were out hunting, tilling the ground, collecting roots for medicine and food, cooking and repairing huts. You could not see yourself in the dream, but you were surveying the scene. Suddenly a voice spoke, a voice which simultaneously made everyone look up from their work and frightened you. It took you a moment to realize why it filled you with fear. It was your own voice. But what words are these you are speaking? I must leave you for a while, you said to your fellow elves. May the gods of the forest protect you all while I'm gone. The demon prince Ishtra is just beginning to gather a vast force of damned, chaotic, and evil creatures beneath our forest. He plans to overrun the entire world, starting with the wood elves. His rule over his army is so cruel that even his foul minions would rebel if they could. But Ishtra holds them in his sway by magical power. Thus, he must be overcome. If his sway is broken, his army will have no organization and power. They will be reduced to civil war between themselves. His army is not yet large, so I must go now to face him, while there is still a chance of penetrating his defenses. May I fare well and fare you all well in return, until I return, I should say, if I return. Otherwise we will meet again in Tir Nanog, that island realm of the son of the sea, the land of youth where all must go when their time comes. Which is from Irish folklore, of course. At this point you woke up. You now take stock of the dream. You know full well that it is a message from your gods, yet never before have they chosen to communicate by having you speak their words. You realize that this must be their way of impressing upon you both the urgency of the task and the fact that you and only you have been chosen for the mission. Yes, only you can save the world. Usual story. This is also why one needs a cup of tea. But the idea terrifies you. As a demon prince, Ishtar cannot be killed by any weapon of any earthly race. Even the most magical sword of the high elves would not strike him down. So what can your lesser powers do against him? Nevertheless, you have been commanded to go, and you put your faith in the gods. They would not so command you if there was no hope. You decide to go back to sleep to see if you can dream a dream which will give you more information about the noble and awesome task facing you. Turn to 1. Right, so we are starting actually in the dream world, which is interesting. Let's move that character sheet out of the way. Actually, I'll just move it like so. And let's start with blue today, shall we? On my pen. So we have paragraph 1. In your dream, you walk through Affin Forest, yet it is both familiar and unfamiliar. The trees seem more alive, even more than they normally appear to your trained wood elf senses. The tiny noises of twigs and shrubs seem magnified. A vivid force plays over the surface of the trunks, being sustained by the vibrant, slow earth below and spreading to the smallest shoot on the topmost branch. Even while you dream, you are aware that this is a vision of the life force, which your people call Maella. It gives all things life, and a minute fragment of it is your power to dream and make magic. So, well, the force. You do not recognize the particular part of the forest you are in. Perhaps it exists only in your dream, but perhaps it has a real counterpart. Affin Forest is vast, but only a small remnant of the one forest of old when the 3 continents of Titan were unified. In your dream, branches bend down from the trees and usher you onwards along a trail which opens up in front of you. You are content to be following the trail, but you also detect urgency in the prodding of the branches. Where are the trees leading you? As soon as the question is formed in your mind, it is answered. The trees stop pushing you onwards, and you find yourself at the meeting of 3 ways. One way is the trail you have been following. The other 2 extend in different directions, forking like the angle of a serpent's tongue. The trees have stopped urging you, so this is where they were guiding you. In your dream, you know that the crossroads is more than just the meeting of 3 ways. The path behind you symbolizes your past life, and now, with your heart beating fast and with your mind strangely calm, you have a choice of 2 ways onward. But where do they lead? At the moment, they both look like greensword. Greensword? Not familiar with the word. Greensword tracks through a still forest. Then you notice for the first time, it has only just appeared. A statue standing on the exact spot where the 3 ways meet. She is a beautiful goddess, but in human form, and you know neither her name nor her function. She is completely impassive. Her arms are folded across her chest, and billowing robes shroud her body. Though made of stone, her eyes seem to bore into your mind and read your thoughts. Your thoughts, of course, are of which way you should turn at this junction. The statue's arms unfold, and a small black dog, which she was cradling in her arms and had been hidden among her full sleeves, leaps down and runs yelping past you and away through the trees behind you. But you know that, whatever the meaning of this, the dog is not showing you your path, and you remain watching the statue. Her arms continue to unfold so slowly that it seems to take eternity. And meanwhile, her robes take on the glow of a pale but brilliant blue, and her face unlocks gently into an enigmatic smile. Finally, her arms are simply pointing down each of the routes between which you have to choose. You look first down the one to your left. Instead of the plain forest path, lacking significant features which you had seen before, there is now a highway that seems, contrary even to your dream expectations, to open up the more distant it gets. The end, if there is an end, is indefinite, but such a sense of health and well-being issues from it that your heart is warmed, and the trees, as they recede into the distance, lose many of their tree-like features, but take on the essence of vitality. Down the other path, however, the trees and woodland shrubs become more and more grotesque, until they are empty shells, not truly alive, but sustained by some fell force which exudes such a malignant power that your nostrils are assailed by the rotten odor of it. And as soon as your mind registers the full horror of the putrescence, in your dream you see its source. A wide area of the forest has collapsed into a pit whose bottom you cannot see, but whatever is there deep underground is causing the blight of the forest, your forest. You now see that the statue bears in either hand duplicates of your trusty sword, Telessa. The beautiful goddess fades into invisibility, leaving a last glimpse of her enigmatic smile and letting the two swords fall to stick quivering in the turf. Will you take up the one to your left and proceed towards the hearth and health of the forest? Or will you take the one to the right and investigate what is causing your precious forest to suffer? And I can now see why 13-year-old me didn't really get along with this book, because that is a section I would have struggled to read, I think, with several words that I would not have been familiar with at the time. So yeah, I can see why this book didn't really do it for me when I read it the first time, whereas a lot of the other ones are, of course, much simpler in their style and much more sparse in their descriptions. So, I mean, imagine if this was a sort of a typical dungeon crawl by Ian Livingstone. It says, "Ooh, you dream, you come to a T-junction in the forest. It goes left and it goes right. Which way will you go?" Maybe sort of say that, "Oh, you come to a T-junction in the forest. There's a statue of a goddess. Dropping your sword on either path. The path to the left looks nice and bright. The other one looks a bit grimy and dirty and evil. Which road will you take?" Okay. So let's put in our left path and the right path. Now, so right now, I know that my mission is to defeat Ishtra. And I know that he is deep below the forest. So the question remains, though, am I supposed to go and check out what's up with what's happening of evil that's affecting the forest, so that can inform my course of action in defeating him? Or should I go the other path, which may give me some kind of blessings, of goodness, and some other benefits that will help me to find out more before I approach the bit that is filled with the odor of putrescence? I'm thinking maybe I should go the bright path first, because oh, hang on, you did drop the swords. Does that mean that it's just a kind of test to see if I understood the message of my previous dream? This is possible, of course, that I'm being tested now to see if I have possibly understood which path I am supposed to go on. So if I go on the nice, bright, and healthy path, I'm sort of saying that, yeah, I'm not going to do that thing over there and sort out the problem now. I'm just going to take my sword and live my happy life and just sort of pretend that I don't know anything about this thing that's going on and hope for the best. Stick your head in the sand, so to speak. And maybe she wants me to pick the other path so that I can acknowledge my mission to her, presuming that this is the deity that actually has prompted the mission in the first place. See, I'm already I'm just on paragraph 1, and this narrative is already engaging me to think beyond the page a little bit, and I like that. I like that in a book. So this means that this is. So I'm going to take the path that is the nasty one, and hope that I'm sort of reading the clues right now from of what is expected of me. So I'm going to go to 67 and see what is causing my precious forest to suffer. As you walk up the path, the trees change from the peaceful, slow creatures which you know and love. Roots bulge out of the ground even as you pass and snake towards your ankles. Branches brush your cheeks, but not in gentle recognition of a kindred spirit. There are no leaves on these trees except for a few rotten remnants, which ooze thick resin and flick it at you. It burns whenever it lands on some exposed part of your skin. But worse than all this, and worse than the hideous forms of these warped trees, is the smell which the pit exudes. The closer you get to it, the more your senses scream that this is wrong. Wrong. Wrong! The part of you which remains conscious even while you sleep is aware that you are tossing and turning on your pallet and are close to waking up in order to avoid the foul nightmare. Will you try to continue with the dream or choose to wake up? Because that's another thing about knowing that you're dreaming, you can choose to wake up as well. If you're having something that could turn into a nightmare, of course, then you can choose to wake up. Very useful. Okay, so it does. I would actually recommend if you're not aware that you're dreaming when you're dreaming, at least get that sort of awareness. I suppose it can help if you tell yourself just before you're falling asleep that when I fall asleep and dream, I will know that I'm dreaming, and you just repeat that until you realize. So continue dream 395 or wake up 380. So I think I'm going to continue with the dream, even though I'm sort of my senses are telling me this is wrong, wrong, wrong. I'm curious. I want to know what is going on there. So wake up. This might be a paragraph. This might be an insta-death, you know. Let's find out. If your power score is 14 or more, turn to 241. Otherwise, turn to 354. My power is 19. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so we have two options based on power. So we have 241 or 354, and that is power 14 plus or power 13 minus. So I go to 241. You manage to block off your senses and persevere. The trees become less threatening and more lifeless, though that in itself wounds your wood elf heart. But the closer you get to the pit, which is the source of the blight in the forest, the more you seem to be wading through a quagmire. It is not just that the ground is sticky and hard to cross. The air itself seems to squeeze your chest until your breathing is labored and harsh. Eventually, you come close to the pit. The light has entirely faded now, and you know you are close only because of the tangible aura of evil surrounding it. A mocking laugh splits the murky atmosphere, and a cold, cruel voice speaks to you. Puny elf, you seek to test yourself against me. I look forward to our meeting, if you get that far. Then all at once, a thicket of impenetrable bushes springs up all around you. Wherever you turn, there is no escape, and the thicket is closing in on you. Will you use a fire spell to force a way through, or not? One shouldn't use magic in a dream. You have to keep track of what's a dream and what's not a dream now. Maybe I should use different colors on my pen for a dream. That just occurred to me. So let's go with blue for dreams then. So I'm going to go and do like so. Right, so fire spell or not. So I'm going to 41. Okay, so two options. So 290 and 41. Fire or not. So I'm not going to use a fire spell. I'm going to go to 290. Thank you very much. You boldly march up to the thicket, which parts and then vanishes to let you through, because it's a dream you're in control, really, after all. You know that in dreams, the images that you see are formed by your own mind and can therefore be changed or dispelled by your own mind, exactly the way that I've used to do as well when I did lucid dreaming. Brilliant. If you have enough power and make the right decisions, but by dispelling this illusion, you also dissolve the dream as a whole, and you wake up. Turn to 380. So, we are going to 380, which I suppose should be in black now, because this is an awake paragraph. So I'm not sure if that was very useful, but I might try the other path next time. We'll see. When you are fully awake, you know that what you must do. Somewhere in the forest is an area of foul blight which marks the entrance to Ishtra's underground stronghold. You must find it. Enter the pit, seek out Ishtra, and do battle with him. This will be an immense task, a quest which, whether you succeed or fail, the wood elves will sing about as long as they have voices to sing. It is a particularly daring undertaking for a wood elf, for your kind do not normally stray more than half a day's journey from home. You call a council of the tribal elders and explain your task. They protest that the mission is impossible, but you do not allow such doubts to enter your mind. You tell them that you must go. Well, you tell them that you must go, I suppose, and you make arrangements for the protection of the tribe during your absence. After embracing your closest friends, and many seem to be such friends under these circumstances, you prepare to leave. All you need is your sword, Tilessa, and the backpack. You do not take any provisions because, well, as a wood elf, you are confident of finding enough to eat as long as you are in the forest. Fair enough. Which way should you go? Lake Nekros lies not far to the east, so you must choose between heading roughly north, south, or west. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of space here now, just to make sure I'm not cramping up my map too much. So I'm going to go up here. So it's north, south, or west. So 344 west, north 88, or south 398 south. And obviously avoiding Lake Nekros, which we have seen in another book, haven't we? Lake Death, literally. That was in Lake Nekros. Was that the Masks of Mayhem, wasn't it? Because it's same writer, of course, and some of the same world building can be used again. Why not? So. But I don't know which way to go. I'll go west. Start with west. Okay, 344. You set off west through the familiar forest. The sun strikes shafts of light through the trees, birds sing in the branches, and small animals rustle the undergrowth. But the burden of your quest lies heavy on you, and you cannot take your usual pleasure in such things. There are few true paths this deep in the forest, but there are plenty of signs to show a wood elf which way is which, and you maintain a generally westward direction. At half a day's travel, you smell wood smoke and hear the rumble of indistinct voices. Humans, most probably, to judge by the timbre of the voices. They are a little way off to your left. Will you seek their company or press on with your journey? Well, one shouldn't really trust human beings, should one? Because they tend to be quick to judge. So it's 298 or 298. Okay. Or 387. 387. Join and or go. I'm going to check out these humans and see if they are the good kind of human. You soon see that you are approaching a clearing, and you notice a thin trickle of grey smoke rising straight up into the windless sky. You can hear the voices more clearly now. They are definitely human, and they sound worried. Will you step through the trees into the clearing or call out first? Okay, it might be an idea to let them know of your presence before you enter. I don't know. Either way, they might be a bit jumpy, but so I'm going to call out, I think. So 59. Call. 294. So I'm going to call out. You call out in the common tongue. Hello there! I come in peace. Will you let me approach your camp? As soon as you begin to speak, the voices went silent, and they remain silent now. There is no reply to your question. You call a similar message again, but with equally little response. You go up to the edge of the clearing and peer around the tree trunk. You see half a dozen humans huddled fearfully under a cart, white faces looking in your direction. There are 3 men, 1 woman, and 2 children. Will you persevere with your attempt to be friendly or leave them be? I don't know, this seems like these people are really scared of something, so... I'll leave them be is 298, so that's the one I've got over there on that side. Or 129, I'll just put that up there. 129, persevere. I think I'm going to persevere, actually, to be friendly. Maybe I'll reassure them in some fashion. The only thing you can do now is step out into the open, still proclaiming your friendly intentions. But by now these frightened travelers, lost in a strange forest, where every shadow seems to threaten, have had time to imagine all sorts of traps you might be setting for them. Even though, when they see that you are alone, they realize that you mean them no harm, nevertheless, they remain sullen and uncommunicative. All you can find out is that they have traveled for many months from a city in the west called Calagar, and are trying to get to Arion. It appears that a prophet in Calagar called Vanator foretold doom for the world, and these people are trying to escape it. You keep to yourself the news that their prophet might not be far wrong if Ishtra has his demonic way. You are able to teach them a few pointers of woodcraft, which should help them to tell west from east, even when the sun is not shining. But it is not clear that they are grateful or even listening. You leave them and continue your westward journey. Turn to 298. Well, can't say I didn't try. Okay, so 298. The further west you travel, the more you are struck by the peculiar behavior of the animals. Normally, timid creatures snarl at you from the bushes. Birds twitter in fright from the topmost branches. It is also clear that the woodland creatures have been harvesting food. It is not the usual season for this, and you realize that all this strange behavior is due to their instinctive awareness of Ishtra's imminent invasion. There are 2 consequences of this. In the first place, it makes you confident that you are heading in the right direction. Secondly, however, you begin to regret not bringing any provisions from home. Yeah, I was thinking that earlier, because you are going somewhere that might actually be infertile with lots of dead trees and stuff. Since it is likely that the closer you get to Ishtra's pit, the more the forest animals will have gathered or eaten the available food. You would have thought that the animals wouldn't do that, though. They would actually try to get away from it. Well, so to a larger extent. You always knew that you would need to carry food when you were underground, but it now seems sensible to gather provisions for your whole journey, both overground and underground. The next stage of your westward journey will be found by turning to 376. Before you turn there, however, remember that paragraph number and turn to 50. That's quite a peculiar thing. So I'm going to put 376 up here. So 376. That's technically not going from 229 now. Actually, technically, on the way there, I'm actually going to 50, I suppose, before going to 376. So, okay, so 50. As you search for provisions, you may well have to fight some forest creatures, either because you try to deprive it of some food or simply because it is aggressive. Roll 1 die to find out what creature, if any, you fight. So, we've got a little table here. I roll a 6, which is no encounter. That's the best one. If you do not have to fight any opponent or when you have 1, roll 2 dice. This is the total of meals worth of provisions you are able to find. So I find 4. Okay, so I've got 4 provisions. So provision 4. Enter this total in the provisions remaining box of your adventure sheet and then turn to the paragraph whose number you were instructed to remember. Okay. What a peculiar way to do it, is it? Why would... Because this doesn't direct me anywhere else but 376. So why, when I went to 50, was I instructed to remember 376? It looks like maybe the intent here was for some of these things to have their own paragraphs, but then that was revised away at some point during the writing process. Anyway, never mind. 376 it is. Later in the afternoon, you hear the distinctive sound of a wild boar trampling the undergrowth. The noise dies away and you think you are safe, but half a kilometer further on, the creature bursts out at you from some shrubs. Wild boar, skill 6, stamina 5. And I have skill 12, so I've got 6 advantage. He rolls 10, I roll 7, so he's down to 3, 8, 9, he's down to 1, 11, he is dead. Since the elves of Athen Forest do not eat meat, this encounter cannot replenish your stock of provisions, but you may decide to take its tusks if you win. No, you may decide to take its tusks. If you win, turn to 326. So it's 6, 5, and tusks. So I've got boar tusks, which I can only presume will be useful at some juncture. 3, 2, 6. I'm just going to put that next to that there. 3, 2, 6. Okay. During the afternoon, there is no noticeable increase or decrease in the strange behavior of the forest animals, which you observed before. You reckon that you may have to change direction, but you postpone that decision until morning and decide to look first for a place to spend the night. While you are pondering these matters, you almost trip over a sapling which someone has bent down and fixed to the ground. As you walk past, will you leave the sapling to your right or to your left? Okay. Interesting and slightly unusual choice. To my left or to my right? 2, 6, 5 or 1, 9, 7. Left or right? I'm going to go left, 1, 9, 7. Just have to pick one, really. You step straight into a cunningly disguised pit. The fall is not far, but there are sharpened stakes on the bottom of the pit. Roll 1 die. The number you roll is the number of stamina points you must deduct. 5 points. So, stamina minus 1d6. Okay. 12. Then you scramble out and continue on your way. Turn to 265. So that is the, in this case, that is an incorrect choice. We know that for next time. By the way, of course, I mentioned this a few times about sort of randomness and fairness and things. This one is what I would call a fair random choice. You have no indication what is the correct choice, but at least it doesn't kill you. So you get injured by making the wrong choice, and then you can keep going on the right path. And of course, you know for next time not to make that choice. That is fair enough, I think, in a game book. But having a completely random choice, left or right, and then one of them just killing you, not the biggest fan, to be honest. Okay. So 265. You find two possible places to spend the night. You could make a bed under some bracken in a little dell, or you could climb up a mighty oak and make yourself comfortable in the crook of one of its vast lower branches. I don't really fancy sleeping under bracken, but an oak sounds nice. So let's see, oak. So 1, 3, 1 or 1, 9, 8. So oak or bracken. So I'm going to go into the oak 198. During the night, the branches of the tree creak and groan, and these noises influence your dream. You imagine yourself bound securely to a stake in the middle of a vast plain while a tree devil advances inexorably towards you, its stiff joints creaking, its knobbly hands end in fingernails of sharpened twigs which it stretches out towards your face. You know that it will pierce your eyes and blind you to the light of this world. Would you struggle to get free of your bonds or not? It's a dream, though. One shouldn't have to struggle. Anyway. So 389 struggle or 289 not struggle. I'll struggle, see if that helps at all. While you struggle in your dream, you are tossing and turning in real life. You eventually plummet off the branch, which is your bed, and land heavily on the ground below. This is why you have sleep paralysis. There you go. And deduct 4 stamina points. Stamina -4. There are still several hours of darkness left, so you climb back up the tree and return to troubled sleep. Why would you climb back up the tree when being in the tree has already caused you to have troubled sleep? Does that make sense? Well, it's the only safe place you have, I suppose, but I don't find that particularly logical. I'm sorry. 316. Because if being in the tree is bothering me, I would just go under some bracken or something, wouldn't I? Anyway. Never mind. Oh, nice picture. In your dream, you're assailed by a huge vampire bat, which you know to be a servant of Istra. It has a power score of 16. You have to fight a dream battle with it. So, oh, this is a dream again. So, let's see. Actually, that's a dream. That's a dream. So, roll 2 dice. If you roll 2 to 7, the vampire reduces your power score by 2 points. If you roll 8 to 12, you reduce its power score by 2 points. Continue this procedure until either its or your power score is 0. The vampire is constantly trying to sink its fangs into your neck and beats you with its leathery wings. Actually, a vampire bat would not aim for the neck because it very specifically tries to aim for places that the animal it wants to bite cannot reach. So a vampire bat attacking a human being would want to aim for somewhere on the back. True story. Right. And I'll just put up the paragraphs for victory and defeat there. Let's see, so 65 and 3, 3, 4. So that's win or lose. So power 16. Okay, so I've got a power of 19. And he has got 16, 19, 16. And basically it's 2 to 7, he wins. 8 to 12, I win. Okay. So around that is, so 17, 15, oh dear, 13. It doesn't really go that well, does it? Finally, yeah, 14. My turn now. 10, 7. He does have the advantage, of course. He's got the 7. Okay, that's it. So I got defeated in Dream Battle. Let's see what happens. Quite curious to see what happens now. 334. The vampire's wings enfold you until all is darkness, and you can see only the red glow of its eyes as its head draws ever closer to your neck. This is the behavior of vampires, not of vampire bats. It's a bit bizarre. You wake up in horror and find, of course, that it was all an illusion. Restore your power score to 1 point less than what it was before the dream combat. So my power is now down to 18. It is now morning, so you decide to continue on your way. Turn to 172. Okay, so let's see. So, power -1. And then we go on to black and 172. So let's put down here FF28, page 1, 172. You have to decide about which direction to take. You know from your experiences yesterday that west is roughly the right direction, so you must choose between northwest or southwest. Excuse me. I'm wondering if, even though there's a bit of space at the top here, whether I should make this the end of a page, actually. I'm going to make that the end of a page. So I'm going to do a page 2 now. So FF28, page 2. And I'm starting with 172. Seems like a good place to start, actually. Okay. My throat is getting a little bit dry now, so I have to drink some more tea, probably. Oh. So I got still on black, yeah. So 150 northwest or 83 southwest. I'm going to go northwest. 150. In the mid-morning of this further day of travel through Affin Forest, you enter a valley formed by sheer crags towering on either side. The tops of the crags are wooded, but there are fewer trees on the floor of the valley. As soon as you enter it, you feel that this is a special spot. But special to whom, and for what reason, you do not know. Will you cast a finding spell to see what that tells you, or will you preserve your power and either continue through the valley or retreat out of it and find another route northwest? So finding spell, go through, or okay, so we have 95 is a finding spell. Continue to 82, or another route 383. Another. So I think I'm going to use a finding spell now, and see what happens. So that is 95. I'm sure it will remind me to remove a PowerPoint. Deduct 1 power point, yeah. Okay, so power is down to 17. Have to be a little bit careful with my power, of course, but it can go up again, hopefully at some point. So minus power minus 1. The spell does not indicate that the value contains danger as such, but warns you of a powerful animal aura, which is neutral rather than hostile. So this is the a den of some animal, presumably. So if I go through the valley, I might get attacked by a bear or something. Will you carry on through the valley or retreat out of it and find another route northwest? 383. I'm going to retreat out of the valley now and go north, find another route, because obviously there is an animal that doesn't want to be disturbed here. That's the feeling I get. 383. In the late afternoon, you start to climb a range of hills which are just as thickly wooded as any other part of Afton Forest. Add 1 lock point for getting this far through the forest. Interesting place to get luck. I don't have any luck to get, actually. But luck +1, yeah. The rock of the hills is exposed in places. Boulders litter the ground and you pass quite a few small caves. You realize that it would not take much searching to find one large enough to spend the night in. Will you do this? Turn to 181. Or not, turn to 56. So, I'm going to do that, I think. 56, not, or 181 cave. So I'm going to check out and see if there are any caves worth spending the night. You soon find a suitable cave. You can see far enough in to tell that it is not occupied, or at least not by anything visible. But there are also signs that it had been recently used by some animal. Gnawed bones litter the ground, and there is a lingering but unfamiliar animal smell. That doesn't sound very friendly, does it? Will you spend the night in this cave or look elsewhere? I'm a little bit sort of apprehensive about that, so I'm going to go and look somewhere else. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 357 or 261. Stay or leave. So I'm going to go find somewhere else. 261. In the gathering gloom of a cloudy night, you cannot find anywhere else to rest. Deduct 1 luck point. Can I deduct the one I just got? Because, yeah, I don't know. Also, what's that got to do with luck anyway? Bad luck, I guess. Huh? You can either return to the cave or journey all night with occasional fitful naps. But there were lots of caves there. Why can't I just find another one? This doesn't seem very logical, actually. There were some logical flaws in Masks of Mayhem. I just presume there would be some here as well. But here we go. That's a logical flaw there. I'll return to the cave then. 390. 357. What's the worst that can happen? You get attacked by a bear. You gather some logs and uproot several bushes to make a screen across the mouth of the cave. This won't fool the cave's occupant if it returns, but it will give you advance warning of its return. Since it would make a noise while removing the screen. If you do not sleep well, can't you just start a fire though, like normal people do at the mouth of caves? Oh. You do not sleep well since you are constantly half expecting to hear the animal come back, but it doesn't. Only one brief vision deepens your otherwise shallow sleep, but it is a dream of great and awesome beauty. You see yourself standing in the center of a ring formed by 6 pools, which you know instinctively are bottomless. 2 of the pools are filled with liquid fire, which continually changes shape and color and seem to form recognizable images, but they are gone before you can identify them. And a new image has taken the place of the other forever lost. 2 other pools are filled with water. In your dream, you look into one of these pools and know that the water is burning cold, though it does not freeze over. You see reflected in the pool a dark, star-studded night sky, but these are not the familiar constellations which circle Titan. The last 2 pools, arranged opposite each other, as the other pairs are too, are funnels from mighty winds. One pool is exhaling and the other inhaling, as if they were the breath of the world, and the strength of their blast would either suck you into the fathomless depths or blow you into the heavens. Gain 2 power points and turn to 319. Nice. Power plus 2, and go to 319. Okay, so power plus 2 up to 19. Okay. In the morning, when you wake up, you tear away the screen from the mouth of the cave. Dawn light floods in from the sun, which has risen just over the tops of the trees in the forest plain below. You can now see more of the cave than you could last night, and you realize that it goes deeper into the mountain than you had thought. At the back of the cave, screened by a boulder, a narrow tunnel winds away into darkness. It is so narrow that you would have to wriggle through, pushing your backpack and sword in front of you. You can feel no draft issuing from the tunnel, nor is there any other indication that it might lead anywhere. Will you explore the tunnel or continue up the hillside? So, of course, if I explore this one, there is a chance I might get stuck, which would be kind of terrible, wouldn't it? So we have two options. So 35, explore, or 114, uphill. I'm going to explore the tunnel because I'm curious. So there we go. So will you cast a finding spell to see if you can detect any danger up the tunnel, or preserve your power and risk exploring it without foreknowledge? Turn to 279. So I am 279 is just barging ahead like any barbarian, and 218 is finding spell. So finding and head. I'll just put the head. I'll use a finding spell again, I think. Let's remove the power point there right away. So let's see. 218, yep. Deduct 1 power point. The spell does not indicate the presence of any danger up the tunnel. Perhaps there is none, or perhaps it is too far away for the spell to detect. It has a very short range after all. Actually, it was a bit foolish to use a finding spell when I think about it, because I mean, the tunnel is so narrow that you wouldn't get very, yeah. At any rate, you enter the narrow mouth of the tunnel, turn to 279, and that means that doing the finding spell is pointless, because all you do is lose 1 point of power, and you don't get anything in return. So that's red on my map, 279. You wriggle along the tunnel, hoping that nothing dangerous will pursue you or come to greet you in these cramped conditions, where fighting would be next to impossible. In fact, however, before long the tunnel widens and allows you to proceed on hands and knees. At the same time, you can begin to make out a dim glow from ahead. Will you carry on, or return to the cave and walk up the outside of the hill? So now you actually have the option of going back as well. Yeah, okay. I'll continue though, because I am still curious. So 1, 2, 4. The tunnel continues fairly straight, westward, into the hillside. After another few minutes, the source of the glow becomes clear, when you find yourself gazing down into a natural cavern, which is lit by the eerie phosphorescent glow emitted by lichen clinging to the walls and roof. Some rocks and stones are scattered on the ground. They too are covered in the lichen, but the dull stone floor is completely free of it. The mouth of your tunnel is about a meter up one wall of the cavern. The cavern is not large, you could stand up in it, but it would not take you many paces to cross it. The tunnel continues on the other side. You boldly let yourself down into the cavern and immediately trip over an obstacle you had not noticed before, since it was tucked right underneath your entrance. It is the skeleton of an earlier traveler. The tattered remnants of clothing cling to the bones, and to judge by the contorted position of the body, this person died in some pain. One bony arm is flung out on the ground, and the hand is trapped beneath a fair-sized boulder. Will you examine the corpse or not? Okay, so this is a little bit ominous now. So I've got a cave. There's lichen everywhere apart from on the floor, as if something keeps moving across the floor. Right. I'm going to check out this skeleton, see if I can learn something more about the person's demise, if I may. So 61, not, and 295, examine. So I'm going to check out and see if I can learn something about what happened to this guy. Oh, that's a nice picture there as well. The most puzzling feature of the corpse is the boulder on its hand. The boulder does not look heavy enough to have trapped this long-dead traveler, so there are two possibilities. Either the lichen which covers the boulder is somehow deadly and caused this adventurer's death when it came into contact with his hand, or someone or something rolled the boulder onto his hand when he was already dead or dying. If you think the first possibility is correct, then you will take care to avoid any contact with the boulder when you examine the skeleton. If you think the second possibility is correct, then the reasons for covering the adventurer's hand with the rock are very odd indeed, and might be worth discovering by rolling the boulder off the hand. Right, this feels like a do or die moment for some reason, because I feel if I make the wrong choice here, that could spell the end of the game for me for this time anyway. Right. So 2 options. Okay, so that is 110 or 182. And that is a lichen or boulder. I'm going to roll the boulder off the hand. 182. You gently push away the boulder with your feet, so that no lichen touches any bare skin. As soon as the rock clears the hand, all the light from the lichen around the cavern seems to converge on a ring the skeleton is wearing on that hand. The light then flashes from the ring to a green stone, which is hanging on a pendant around the skeleton's neck. You had not noticed this before, since it is hanging inside the skeleton's ribcage, and you were intent on the rock. To your horror, the skeleton jumps to its feet. It immediately starts to wield the light from its ring as a weapon. Every time you lose an attack round, you have been burned by the ring's icy cold flame. If you win, the skeleton collapses back, etc. So I'm going to just do this battle now. So that's 8-6. Okay. So I've got, so that's 8, 6. I've got 12, 12. I've got 12 stamina. I should stop and eat, shouldn't I? At some point. I've got a 4 skill point advantage. He rolls 10. I roll 5, so he hits me. 10 and 5 again. Let's see. 10 again and 8, so that's me hitting him. 7, 10, yeah. And 10 seems to be number he rolls all the time. Double fives almost every time as well. What are the odds? You tell me. Right, so he is dead, or again, defeated, vanquished. If you win, the skeleton collapses back to the ground, but you have only temporarily doused its evil light. You dare not touch the pendant or the ring, so you roll the rock back over the skeleton's hand and carry on down the tunnel. Turn to 61. So, okay. Oh, no, that's not it. 61 is from that point. 61. Okay, that's interesting. So that's exactly what happens if I don't examine the skeleton. So maybe something different would have happened if I had the other theory. I'm going to find out some other time, probably. I'm not going to survive this, am I? I mean, what are the odds, really? 61. You cross the cavern, taking care not to touch any of the weird lichen. You have to get back onto your hands and knees to continue down the tunnel, but after another half hour of this awkward mode of travel, you start to detect fresh air, and soon you break out onto the western slopes of the hill. Okay, so just walk straight through it then. That's interesting. Ooh. You stretch your cramped muscles and look ahead to the west to see what terrain you must cross next. The hill descends gently into a valley where all seems to be peace and harmony. The trees there seem still to be clothed in spring green, but this sparkling copse ends with shocking abruptness in a landscape which is unlike anything you have seen before, awake or in your worst nightmares. You realize that you are looking out over the blighted part of the forest, which your dream revealed to you. It is considerably larger than you thought it would be. It stretches for kilometers in front of your eyes. Turn to 386. Okay, so I am sort of on the right track now. But am I prepared for whatever comes next? I don't know. Empathy knows no distances, and as a wood elf you can feel the pain of the suffering forest, even though you are still some way from it. What lies before your eyes is like a mockery of the forest you know and love. There are trees, all right, although many areas have been devastated, as if by fire or by a horde of careless axe-wielding dwarfs. In contrast to the clarity of the air where you are and in the pleasant valley below, the cursed region in the distance is shrouded by a murky haze, which rolls and seethes with a chaotic life of its own. But your observations of the scene are cut short by a sudden harsh cry which rips the still air, silences the birds twittering in the trees above you, and sends a spurt of chill fear into your heart. You jump to your feet in alarm. Will you run and hide from whatever vast being may be the source of this sound, or stay where you are? Right. Hide or stay? I may hide, actually. 7, hide. 373. Stay. I'll just go hide, shall I? 7. Unfortunately, a Borket, which was nearby, has the same ideas as you. You and this shaggy ape meet head-on in a frantic dash for cover. Borket are usually timid creatures, but this one is terrified and will fight for its life. It kicks and gouges and pummels with its powerful arms and legs. Its high skill score reflects its ability to leap out of your reach. If the Borket ever wins 2 consecutive attack rounds against you, you lose your footing and tumble some way down the slope. You must deduct 1 extra stamina point before resuming the fight. If you win, you know that your destiny is waiting for you and you must go to face it. Okay, so this is actually the wrong choice then, to hide, because it leads us back to 373 anyway. Which means that I could just do one of those save game things now, technically, and say that, well, let's go back and make a different choice. But before I do that sort of stuff, I'm going to just do this the old-fashioned way. So 12, 12, 8, and yeah, 12, 8 versus 8, 11. 8, 11. So I've got a 4 skill point advantage. He rolls 4, 10, 9, 10, 6, 10. A lot of 10 rolling today. 7, 8, 4, 12, and finally perhaps 7 and 7. Okay, so that was quite easy. 3, 7, 3, no choice. I have to face whatever the shriek is from. There is no sign of any living creature that might have uttered the unearthly cry you heard. While you watch from the hill, however, the swirling haze which covers the blighted forest suddenly leaps into greater motion, and even though you are far away, you are simultaneously struck by a furious blast of sorcerous wind which knocks you off your feet. So somebody had way too many beans for breakfast. Yeah, that's what happens when demons they have their breakfast. Okay, test your luck. Okay, so 10, that means not lucky. So I get knocked off my feet, presumably. So that is... So 175, lucky, or 93. Oh, lucky, 93. There we go. So I'm going to go to 93 as being unlucky at this time. You happen to be drawing a breath when the wind struck, so some of the evil blast enters your lungs. You feel a chill sap your strength and your sense of purpose. Lose 1 power, 1 skill, and 2 stamina points. That is super harsh. So let's see, minus 1 skill, minus 1 power, minus 2 stamina. Okay. Okay, skill 11, stamina is now down to 6, luck is down to 7, power is down to 17. Turn to 57. Okay, so now I can eat rations anyway. Continue your journey, it says, so that means I can eat my provisions and get my stamina back up again to 14, I suppose. Let's see, did I go to 57? Yes, 57. Okay, so 5, 7. Okay. You continue your journey on all fours. Why? It is some time before you dare to pick yourself up and proceed as normal through the trees. You wonder whether the blast of wind was directed by some intelligent mind towards you in person, or whether it was the instinctive response of evil towards good. You realize that, however hazardous your journey up to now has been, the dangers have at least been reasonably familiar. Once you reach the blighted land, however, you will suspect that you will enter an uncharted region of unknown terrors. Turn to 239. 239. Before long, you are at the foot of the hills, and you enter the glade whose spring greenery you admired from above. There is no doubt in your mind that this is an enchanted place, containing the powers of good. Or the power of good, it says. The air is fresh and sweet, small flowers dapple the sward, and the trees, mainly silver birches, are filled with trilling birds. You have no idea whose enchantment the place is under, but you can guess why it is there, as a bastion against the evil of the blasted lands beyond. You revel in the pleasant atmosphere as you stroll among the trees. Soon you come to a fair-sized pool, which is fed by a bubbling brook. Will you drink from the pool, bathe in it, or avoid any contact with it? So, the eternal question, isn't it? Every time you get to a pool, are you going to drink from it, bathe in it, or avoid it? That's such typical fighting fantasy staple, or any fantasy role-playing staple, I guess. So 3 options. Uh, 106, drink. Bathe, 199. Bathe, or 355. Avoid. Snog, marry, avoid, I suppose. Now, I guess bathing probably the best thing to do right now, because my health is quite... I've regained a lot of stamina from eating provisions now, so drinking is usually something that gives you health. Bathing might give you luck or skill, maybe. I'm just hoping now. I'm going to bathe in it anyway, 199, and see what happens. The water is clear and refreshingly cool. It is nice to wash off the dust of your journey. You may add 2 luck and 2 stamina points. Not bad, not bad. So +2 stamina, +2 luck. If you were infected by the spores of the itching powder plant, you may also restore the lost skill point. Well, I wasn't, but I lost another skill point, so I can't get that then, which is a bit of a shame. Okay, so +1 skill in brackets. Then you rest on the bank in the warm sun and drift off to sleep. Turn to 160. Okay, so I'm going to 160. Okay, so +2 stamina, which is no power points actually. So luck back to 9, stamina up to 16, and no increase in skill, unfortunately, because it wasn't a powder plant that infected me. And then I'm turning to 160, and I think this is a good time for a new page of map as well. And I'm off to sleep, so I'm going to put here 160. Let's make that blue here as well, so you can see that we are in dream mode. FF28, page number 3. I'm going to do a video one day just showing you all my maps now, because it's quite a collection I've got by now. Right, so 116, there we go. 160. In your dream, the fairy folk who tend this enchanted garden appear to you. They tell you that they are the secret children of Galana, goddess of plants and fertility. They dance and teach you many things about plants that even the wood elves do not know. Finally, they invite you to stay with them, to combat evil by tending their garden of good. It is a sweet temptation, especially to a wood elf. But not one I can accept, because it's not my mission, is it? So there's a 1 in 6 chance, it looks like you will just end your game there, possibly. 31, 1, 1, 2, 5, and 2, 9, 6, 6. I guess I roll 1 die and I roll a 6. That is 296 is the one I'm going for. 296. You give in to the temptation. You will live out your days in a pleasant but fruitless half-dream, tending the enchanted fairy glade. Whether or for how long you stem the tide of Ishtra's army is not recorded. Your quest is over. And I've been playing this game for quite a while now, so this is probably a good time to give it a little bit of a rest. Very fascinated by this book now, which I thought I would be. And I'm also can quite see why I didn't get on with it earlier. So that's I quite like when you have these endings that are not just you die or something like that, but something that's a bit more colorful, that actually suits the narrative, that actually builds on the character or the story or the world building and things like that. And this is one of those things that actually does that, and I quite like that about it. So 1d6. if this had been quite early in my playing session, or if I'd been here before, I would just ignore that result and roll again. But yeah, it being the first time and going on for 1 hour and 42 minutes now on the clock on my recording, I think it's a good time to give it a little rest. So yeah. Right, so there we are. Did you enjoy that? I certainly did. This is a really well-written book, possibly the best written so far in terms of actual writing that I have encountered in my playthroughs. And I'm quite fascinated by the concept, the world building, the dream thing, etc. I'm still wondering. The thing is, I have very little indication now that what I have chosen so far is going to be the right choices, but I have very few indications that I've made. I mean, I have a few red marks on my map now that I know are wrong choices, but they can all easily be avoided. And there's no indication so far that there's a big shopping list for this game, that there are things that you need to pick up along the way in order to help you conclude the quest. Maybe there are things like that. A lot of it seems to be just finding the way, which it seems I have to quite a good extent. So I will try again next time, and I will probably make some different choices, because that's part of the process of trying to figure out if I am on the right path, and see what else happens if I make different choices, which means my next gaming session might well be shorter than this one, because I made so many right choices this time, possibly. So I'll certainly be looking forward to that. I hope you will be looking forward to that too. And I'm not sure when I will record that. Let's see, today's. I might be able to do that tomorrow. Of course, I will post these two videos with 1 day apart. I will probably post them a week apart at least, most likely, because it sort of keeps the pacing of posting up a little bit. It's been a few weeks now since my last one was posted, I believe. So yeah, so I'm going to post one this week, and I'm probably going to post one next week as well. So we'll see how it goes. Right. Thank you for watching again. I do appreciate, of course, how many people actually are watching my fighting fantasy videos. It did occur to me earlier today, I was responding to a comment on one of my videos, that the thing is that I think I'm enjoying playing these books so much more by making the videos, if you see what I mean, because I engage with the book in a completely different way than if I'm reading it on my own. If I'm reading on my own, I'm doing it silently inside my head, and I'm doing it very fast as well, because I'm a really fast reader. I can do the really fast reading, mapping, all those things. But I think it's more satisfying to me to make the videos, because it slows down my pace. It allows me to when I read it aloud as well, it gives me a different impression of the writing and the words. It makes it more memorable in a different way, because I'm absorbing it not just through my eyes but also through my ears. And then in addition to that, I know some people actually love watching my videos, and for that I'm quite grateful. And I'm glad to be able to share it with someone, because someone who otherwise may not have been able to enjoy the book for whatever reason, not having the book for starters, or perhaps not having the sort of impetus to go and play the books themselves, but not minding a sort of a nice background entertainment of watching somebody else play the game. You never know, there might be different reasons. So it feels a bit like I'm sharing a sort of a little storytelling session with someone, which is always nice, and something I haven't actually done enough in my life, I think, until I started doing my videos on YouTube, and especially the fighting fantasy ones, of course. So I'm quite enjoying that aspect of it as well. Yeah, so thank you again, and I'll see you next time, and goodbye for now.